Cool. So when I shut the door, you guys are good to get going.
All right. I'm assuming it's recording. All right.
Okay.
Assalamu alaikum, Omar.
Bismillah.
This is happening.
Wow, finally, huh?
We're inside this box here. You know, it feels like a
The cube.
It's a
We
cube.
broadcasting live from the cube.
The cube. You got checkerboard, chessboard. What do you consider this?
Sound pads to muffle this greatness we got.
Okay.
One thing I have to say.
Uh-huh.
What are you doing? What are you working on? Welcome to 11 Gray with our Bazz and Umar, where we're gonna have difficult conversations
Inside a cube.
inside the cube, where we're gonna talk about a little bit of every thought leadership, a little bit of everything that's entertaining as well as thoughtful and mindful.
Yeah. You know, I guess people don't know that me and Omar talk once or twice a week,
Right.
and we talk about the stuff that no one wants to talk about from all sides. Because
We probably do the stuff nobody wants to do.
we do the stuff nobody wants to do, but we hear it from all sides of the community.
Yeah.
And we see all the different strategies, all the movements. How some people are stuck in their leadership trap. They're kind of like
Yeah.
stuck in thinking the same way.
Yeah.
And you kind of see people doing the same thing all the time. But some of it is because people are in these little echo chambers. They don't want to come out and have the gray conversation.
So as we go deeper
Mm-hmm.
into this year in review, because it's already November, we might as
Yeah.
well talk about the stuff that we done.
Yeah.
Please like and share this podcast with your people.
Mm.
And you can follow me at Encourage at INKERIJ 1970.
Mm. I don't have a handle for people to follow anymore because I put everything on private.
Oh,
so
wow.
I'm living the private life.
Follow Dr. Bazz.
If you want to follow me, you can go ahead and just maybe follow Muslim Visionaries Global. That's the handle.
Dr. Bazz.
Yeah, I keep. One thing I learned in the last year was I like my privacy, and I like to
Okay.
keep my people around me because.
Okay.
know,
I respect that.
Yeah.
I respect that. So, how many events did we do this year? Events. I think the
Events.
first event we did was when everything took off after October 8th. We did, was a community building because the community was they didn't know, they wanted to learn what to do in these situations.
That's right. We were doing online. We're doing the virtual gatherings. We did a 501c4 training on what a 501c4 how it operates, right? So we did a portion with you, and we had a portion with Masood
Okay.
talking about how 501c4s can operate, what lobbying looks like, what community organizing is, and you did a whole presentation, the one that you give on power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, as a community organizer here in Los Angeles, I've been organizing for like the past 12 years. And I've learned certain community organizing tools to move people and towards building power.
Yeah.
And I define power as when your will and ability come together for a good use. And so the first, I hope y'all taking notes. Take your notes.
Take notes while watching this YouTube.
Take your notes while watching this YouTube. So the first purpose of power, move money and people and resources towards your goal. If you're an organization, build your base, identify the resources from the philanthropists and your that's taking a liking to your organization, and use those funds or those resources to fund your purpose.
So I think one of the challenges, we should talk about is
Can I
the
do
why.
second one?
How's that?
Can
Oh
we
yeah,
just-
go ahead, do the second one. Yeah.
The second purpose would be you doing this to build political influence. I don't know how many people woke up recently to realize that our community had little influence because taking a picture is not political influence. We're known for taking pictures with politicians, but nothing came out of that. And the third purpose is securing your narrative because everybody tells our story about us except us.
Yeah, I mean that was the quote we put out there by you, which says a picture with a politician isn't power. but everyone sees that as a power move. But it's it's almost comical to think
photo
that.
op.
Yeah, it's a photo op, right?
It's a photo op.
And in today's world, you can just Photoshop stuff.
Hey,
I could have a bunch of pictures with everybody.
You know the joke, right?
What's the joke?
If you want some money from the Muslim community, you take a picture with them. You take a picture with them.
It's funny how people see that as something, right? It's
Right.
like I met with them and I took a picture, and this is my wall full of pictures with all these people.
Ain't nothing happened out of that.
Yeah, nothing comes out of that. But we've had a ton of Muslim politicians and a ton of Muslims in political spaces over the last decade or 3-4 decades, and they think that is the route. Now, I've heard so many people in the last year say that I thought that person was my friend. I'm like, bro. What?
Go a little deeper. Go a little deeper.
I'm like, man, this person is not your friend. This is not how things operate. You just because you had a politician that you gave some money to, and you hung out with a few times. That person is your friend. They're clearly there to use you for a purpose, right?
Yeah.
They're using you because
Definitely.
all you needed was to be dined, and you're gonna write a check to them, so you can feel good about it, right?
I was taught, coming up in this civic engagement world, is that we create professional relationships and not friend relationships, because at the end of the day, like you said, nobody really friends. You business partners. You can become friends down the line over some years, but you create these professional relationships with the civic community and or in the faith community based on your purpose with one another.
Yeah. It's all common interests, right? People are friends because they have common interests. And the reality is, many of these politicians that we're meeting with regularly, we don't have too many common interests. So when we meet at the table, they're looking at where's the alignment.
Why we don't have common interests, though? We should, though.
Well, I think there are some common interests. We don't know our common interests too well. But for too long, I think our community has focused on the Islamophobia route because they want to meet with the politician, talk about Islamophobia. And they have learned to use that term to get your attention. Let's talk about Islamophobia. That's why when a genocide could take place, they want to say, hey, can we talk about Islamophobia? I mean, I met with a ton of politicians last year, and they're like, hey, we understand what's going on over there, but let's talk about the Islamophobia that's taking place. I'm like, 50,000 people are dead. You want to talk about Islamophobia here? I think that's interesting for people to talk about. You have a greater power that you're kind of just kicking the can down the road, saying that let's focus on not this big thing here. Let's focus on this tiny thing right here that's impacting some people. And there's a space for that. Conversation should happen. But they're almost trying to say that, hey, we're not going to talk about the big issue, the elephant in the room.
So over the last few months, I was tasked with an assignment from one of my community partners. This assignment was, there are 15 council districts in Los Angeles. And our job was to go to each district. So out of the 15, we met with 6. And we started with the deputy mayor. A little bit out of breath, but that's okay. We started with the deputy mayor. And each office said the same thing. We don't know the Muslim community. We don't know them, even though we show up to the meetings, even though we receive the emails. We don't know you.
Do they know the Pakistani community?
Cut it out. Cut it out. Maybe more than scratch that. But they were saying that they don't know the Muslim community. Why? We're not engaging them enough. So if you in your city, the first call to action of this podcast, start engaging City Hall. Get to know who your representatives are. Get to know what district you stay in, and schedule a meeting with them. Invite them out. Engage them so they could get to know us, because the other communities, this is what they do.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely 2 models I've seen in the last year of community engagement. One, I've seen that you have the political donor class. That they're regularly meeting with these folks. They're inviting them over to events or doing other things. But they've also closed the door for the community to engage with them. because they're like, they want to protect those relationships. They want to keep it in a certain space, a certain room. One of the things that we did pretty early on, we had our congressperson that did call for a ceasefire.
Yeah.
We went from hosting, a small political donor event to open up the meeting to tons of people. We had a good 70 people at the first event. We had young people, we had a broad coalition, but the goal here was that we want people of all backgrounds, students, young professionals to engage. We want that part of the political process. We don't want to close it off. But the fear is that, if you let everyone in the room, they're going to say all sorts of things, which they did. But I think it's important because that's how people learn, right? To have a town hall where more people are part of that engagement. But I think many of the Muslim community leadership, political donors particularly, maybe feel like they need to protect the relationships. They need to protect them from the community.
I can understand that.
And I don't think that's the route. I mean, I think there's enough. That's their job. They're a public servant, and they need to engage people no matter how crazy, absurd, and
Go ahead.
And whatever their demands are. Yeah.
So the first one we did was community organizing C4 training.
Yeah.
How many C4s was born at this time? A lot.
I would say from the list that I last seen, it's about at least 70 around the country that came together. They either formed a pack, they formed a C4. Okay. A lot of people that initially went the C4 route, like, I'm just going to start a pack. Or maybe I don't want to do a pack. Maybe I want to do a C3.
Why is it so important to form a C4? Tell the audience.
I think C4s have a lot of perks. And one of them is the lack of reporting. You don't have to, your donors stay a secret on the C4 side, which is great. Additionally, the C4 is not taxed. I mean, the person donating is not tax deductible, but the organization is not taxed, which is great. And then it allows you to do a little bit of lobbying and allows you to do education. So you have a split of the 50-50.
That part.
Yeah.
That part. We wasn't, at the time when everything cracked, we were barely doing any lobbying. Yeah. Like maybe each organization do it once a year, while other organizations doing it every month. And then I took a trip to D.C. and I met with another C4. They told me how much it cost to run a C4.
What was that? What was that cost?
Man, I could break it down like this. The executive director at least make $100,000 or more. You need at least 4 lobbyists. Yeah. Who makes anywhere from $70,000 to $90,000 a year. That's a lot of money. I think that's what turned a lot of people off when they recognize that this is have to be a consistent effort. Yeah. And the ones who survived are still going. Yeah.
Well, one of the I picked some people's brains. Some people have run these before. And one of the pieces of advice I got was to look at the movement model.
Look at the movement model.
Yeah, you want to get people bought in.
Because, so building a base.
Yeah, building a base. If you can't get people to sign up as monthly donors, you can't move your own people and get them to commit, then you have a bigger problem you need to address first.
And that's been the difference between our organization today. I come from a community organizing background. Yeah. And our base is basically the leaders or the congregants of churches, mosques, and synagogues. So that's our base. The people who's gonna move and mobilize when it comes to a call to action. Yeah. Our organizations only had a donor base. They only had a donor base. Yeah. And the donors, unfortunately we facing donor fatigue these days. Yeah. But they only built the donor base. They didn't build a relationship with the people of the mosque, the leaders, the basic leaders, who they're gonna call to build power for.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the power that needs to be built is through engaging with people more. Yeah, and I think many of our Muslim nonprofits and organizations feared the people in this last year because many people woke up. They started questioning: is your process, is your political engagement, you engaging with these politicians, did it get us anything? And you've had organizations that have been in the game for 40 years, 30 years, 20 years, whatever, right? All the big guys, they've been in the space, and now they're put on the defensive trying to answer to the community, well, why are we making these decisions? Which is great. That's the thing I love. I love the tension because it brings the best out of both sides. But many people fear that. But I think that's part of the.
Another thing that had us scramble before we jump into the next one, had us scrambling us, is we didn't have a political agenda.
Yeah.
It was certain things like you said, we only focused on Islamophobia. Yeah. But I'm from Compton, California.
Yeah.
We have influence. We are a people, but we our issues are housing, law enforcement, mental health, economic development, all that. Most organizations did not have
address that.
Does not address that.
And that's an interesting thought. I mean, have you ever felt in Compton, you felt like there's somebody out there who's a staunch Islamophobe, or is that not a?
I don't get a problem on my block, man. My block, they rally behind us. They love to see the Muslims. When I first became Muslim in 1998, I never had a problem with it.
Yeah,
it was love.
Well, I think that comes down to what did our community prioritize as the agenda for the Muslim community?
Yeah,
they prioritize Islamophobia, but that's only a segment of the community that's affected. That we didn't look at the broader agenda.
So true story. We had a meeting with a government agency. And at this government agency, we was talking about Islamophobia, of course.
Yeah.
And it was, I'm not going to call any names of who the organizations were. But after as an organizer, we brief and debrief. And we brief before we go in and debrief when we come out. So we had the debriefing.
Yeah.
And I said, we need to put together an agenda.
Yeah.
Because I've been organized for like the last 12 years. And having a clear path, your North Star, or what you need to tackle to build your power.
Yeah.
I told these organizations out of 1, 2, I think it was 3 of them that was present.
Yeah.
Out of the 3, only 1 responded with their issues. And that was like 2 years ago. So I feel that our work, we planted a lot of seeds that is taking time to cultivate and grow.
Yeah.
Now, hopefully, these organizations get it.
Yeah. When we were looking at our agenda for Muslim visionaries, we looked at a ton of different things. We came with a ton of different approaches. But ultimately, we came down and said we want to focus on one area, and that is the idea of divesting to invest in your local community. It's moving money from hurting other communities overseas to investing that money and resources back in our own community. Every local community, if we were to just cut some of our spending on military expansion and things like that and invest in our local communities, would completely change the way our country operates. And I think that's where we want to go. I think that's what the average American wants to see. The average American wants to see our local communities being built up and less money going to killing people.
So you a C4?
Yeah.
Tell us about your C4.
It's a C4. We got.
What's the name of it?
Muslim Visionaries. It's been it's been a couple years in running. So we actually started prior to October last year. We started initially because we wanted to teach others how to become better leaders, provide the education training, and then help those people, whether it's nonprofit leaders or local young people, organizers, and help them get into positions of power. That was the ultimate goal. In the last year, we identified and looked at the political agenda and said we actually need a political agenda with this, because that's how we're going to be truly effective. And it's all a learn in the process. I mean, we've done a ton of different things in the last year. It's getting better.
Right. You learning as you go.
Learning as we go. We truly understand that the power is in the hands of the people.
Always.
As long as we're
always have been.
Yep. As long as we're educating people, learning with people, growing with people, that's when our institutions are going to get better. But we can't fear the people. I've dealt with so many colorful people in the last year. People have said all sorts of crazy stories. They've got angry.
What?
They've got frustrated.
What?
And they got positive
What?
people. You got all sorts of things And every week it's always something new, and I just learned to enjoy it because I'm like, this is just human beings.
I'm gonna
right?
sue you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, what's funny? Okay, since we brought up that point, that was one of that probably is a highlight. If I was to chart a board of what we did in 2024, that'll be on there. Getting a call from the
such and such,
the CEO of a major Muslim organization, and the chairman, and then talk about making legal threats and other things. I thought that was
that means you're doing something.
I thought, man, I thought if somebody's negotiating at such a high level, they wouldn't have such an emotional reaction. But then I realized that, first of all, that person's human. I always recognize that the person's a human on the other side. I don't, I fault their strategy. They could be completely sincere. But I think one thing I've noticed, and that what I've saw in that person, I've seen in so many leaders, is this idea of just being burnt out. They completely have lost the script.
I've seen a lot of burnt out organizers.
Yeah, burnt out, losing their cool, going crazy, being reactive.
They don't have a direction. They're just all over the place.
Yeah, they're all over the place. And everyone thinks they're playing chess.
Yeah.
But, I think even in that moment, as much as that person sounds crazy, I try to look at their humanity, but I also recognize that we need to keep pushing back. And I had the conversation where they went off, and then I followed up with what I thought was wrong in their strategy and their approach, and we had a conversation over text. And I felt like they kind of deflected, but at the end of the day, it's our job to hold all of our leadership accountable.
Yeah.
And I'll add to that is we don't want false unity, uniformity. We don't want just organizations coming together saying that we're all getting along, when in reality we can't truly challenge each other. And part of that is because of some of the leadership models that we try to mimic are dictatorial.
Only technical fixes. That's what they do.
The technical fixes, but we also have a dictator's mindset sometime when we come into these organizations where we need to run everything top down and
pseudo leadership. I don't think people have truly adopted the listening that's needed to build an organization. That's a good word. So you run a C4.
Yeah.
I run a C3 called Encourage Foundation.
Yeah.
You can get these mugs, encourage.net/shop.
We don't have any gear here, but our logos.
I got gear on right now.
Oh no, I don't have any Muslim Visionaries gear.
I got drip on. What you talking about?
You got Encourage, but no Muslim Visionary. But we are half yellow, so we have yellow seats. So
Encourage sell products that leaders wear and use. Yeah. Anyway, Encourage is an advisory that helps purpose-driven organizations and individuals build up capacity.
Yeah. And
everybody asks me why you spell the name like this.
Yeah.
Well, I got awarded a fellowship in the UK and at Cambridge University. Yeah. And they said you need to come with a social entrepreneurial project.
Yeah.
So I got to asking all my colleagues, give me some input, some feedback about me. And the word encourage kept popping up. I basically knew what it was, but I looked up the definition, right? But what caught my attention was the pronunciation key.
Oh,
I'm like, thank you, Allah. This is ingenious.
That's interesting.
So I called the lawyer. I said, can we trademark this? And she said, let's try. 6 months later, Encourage started off as a hashtag. Got our 501c3 in 2021. And now we sell products that leaders wear and use, which is our form of fundraising for the organization because there's a donor fatigue that is set in. You got like a ton of 501c3s chasing the same 5 donors.
Yeah.
So we figured out a way that we could raise our own funds as well as accept donations on like on the upcoming Giving Tuesday.
Yeah.
So it's been pretty successful. I'm really thankful. Thank you for the support. It's been pretty successful, and we about building local power. So, what was the next event that we did with this year in review? We did the C4 training.
So we also did a security training.
Security training with College Shaw.
Yeah.
Stop the Violence, Increase the Peace Foundation.
Yeah.
Shout out to College Shaw and the Shaw Family for Stop the Violence, Increase the Peace Foundation, which is an organization that has been building peace in the streets of Los Angeles for years. You know, they've basically trained me and given me my paths and assignments for me to complete to get to know the community. So one day, it's been an interesting journey. I never thought I'd be in this position, but it's been an interesting journey when knowing the people that I know.
So let's talk about that. So, you know, we all obviously had a lot of stuff happening on college campuses across the country. You were at UCLA, and you were there on a crazy day.
I was there both nights.
Oh, you were both nights? Okay.
Both nights. So, of course, I'm in the bed, you know. You get a little older in the game, you go to bed a little early, you know what I'm saying? So the text is going off. So they was asked, the MSAs was asking for community support.
Yeah.
So I Ubered down there. I didn't want to take my car in case something happened.
Yeah. And
when I got there, this is another world, man. Totally different world. When I got there, this is what the students were saying. Do not engage. Do not engage.
Yeah.
Protect yourself. Protect yourself.
Yeah.
Who are they protecting themselves from? Those who label themselves as the aggressors, spitting, throwing bottles.
Yeah.
Even I did the talk after Juma there on Friday, and even doing our Juma services, the protesters or the aggressors were very disturbing. They're very disrespectful. Yeah. Very disrespectful during our service.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting 2 nights.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you know, with that, you know, the security component of our community is so underrated, because if we were to take a look back at what was happening, there was a young kid that got attacked on the East Coast by a older guy. And ultimately, he couldn't walk again after that, because I forgot where he was leaving, but he had a keffiyeh on, and then the person saw him and he attacked him.
Yeah.
And those type of incidents kept happening. You had the little kid in Illinois that was, by his neighbor.
I think it was 7-year-old.
7-year-old, yeah. So you had a lot of these incidents, and we had to really think about security as something that's
true.
Yeah.
Security for us means prevention.
Yeah.
It's always been the stake in our community. And so we still, the Nation of Islam had these protocols, about 10 or 12 protocols. And one that sticks with me most is never leave your post until properly relieved.
Yeah.
You take control of your post and everything around it. Yeah. So even in this, so if you go to a mosque, you got maybe like one armed security guard.
Yeah.
But at our facility, the whole community is on point. You know, especially the men.
Yeah.
It's our obligation to be on some form of security while attending mosque. Yeah. So, you know, and we're trained by our elders who were captains and lieutenants in the Nation of Islam, who are now Sunni Muslims. So that's part of our training. So a lot of these young boys around here bromancing, I ain't got time for that. You bromancing, you ain't got time to be on security to protect your community. We can't cuss on here.
No. Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you one story. I was at, I was in, I believe Inglewood, next to the LAX airport, where they got the Shabazz Bakery. And I went in the back, and I need to pray. So I put the rug down, and I started looking around. And there's another brother there. He came and looked at me, and he's like, I got you. I'm doing security right now.
Yeah.
And it was just like part of that mindset that, you know, we know you're in this area, you're about to pray. You know, I'm going to keep you protected, so don't worry about this. And I had a few people with me, family and stuff. So
for the non-Muslims that are watching, Islam has 5 pillars. The first pillar, and these are 5 pillars that we live by, that we try to exemplify. The first one, Islam is a monotheistic religion, so we basically believe that God is one. The second is prayer. We pray 5 times a day. The third would be Ramadan. We fast during the holy month of Ramadan from sunrise to sunset. The fourth pillar would be charity. 2.5 of what you earn. And then the 5th pillar would be Hajj.
Mm-hmm.
You done your Hajj?
Not yet.
May Allah reward you. May Allah reward you.
One day.
It's a
inshallah.
beautiful experience, man.
Yeah.
I was fortunate. The Qatar consulate sent me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I had I'm with my mom one day, man. She rest in peace, and we driving.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe every phone call is important.
Yeah.
So the phone rang.
Uh-huh.
You know, you got these cats that don't answer their phone.
Uh,
You know what I'm saying?
I answer my phone most of the time.
You do. You got these cats that don't answer their phone, but every phone call is important. So, I saw the name, Assalamu alaikum. He said, Umar, you been on your Hajj? I'm like, nah. He said, you want to go?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, yeah. He said, do A, B, and C, and I need to buy tomorrow.
Uh-huh.
Man,
Yeah.
I did A, B, and C, my shots. I already had my passport.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying? And I had to do, drop it off. Oh, I had to get the visa.
Uh-huh.
And I dropped it off in Orange County.
Wow.
Man, that was a beautiful thing.
Yeah. I've heard a couple of people in the last few months tell me, you got to go on Hajj, And I was like, I was just waiting until I get some more grays in. But I guess people keep telling me.
Well, you go when you get invited. You know, when the time is right. And people, don't let nobody pressure you.
Yeah.
Because Allah gonna send you your ticket when it's time for you to roll. I told myself I wouldn't go nowhere else in the world until I go on my Hajj. You know, like all the trips that I've been on, they have been they sent for me or been some type of program.
Yeah.
So it's never been a vacation. So when this Hajj rolled around and rolled up, I was with it. Yeah. So back to the conversation.
So here's a question. So
What's the
how was it this year for the first time voting for Donald J. Trump?
How was it? Me voting for Donald J. Trump?
How was it?
I didn't vote for Donald J. Trump. You see, my man, that was a trick question. You gonna get me. You gonna get me canceled. Not that vote for him is a bad thing. I'm not knocking anybody who voted for him, but that wasn't my candidate.
Yeah,
that wasn't my candidate. Neither was Kamala my candidate. So, but this is why a political agenda is important.
Yeah.
If he aligns with your values, all the racism talk doesn't align with my values.
Yeah, this year I was reading a book called Ages of Revolutions by Fareed Zakaria, the CNN guy. And the whole point that he makes in the book.
Wait a minute. How was it voting for Trump?
I didn't vote for Trump. You know, like I mentioned, my cat.
You probably say something like your cat ate your ballot.
My cat did eat the ballot.
So you didn't exercise your vote at all because your cat ate the ballot?
Last minute, I was going to send out the ballot. The cat ate it. So that was that. But, I saw that as a sign.
That's his excuse.
But where was I going with this? Ages of Revolution, Fareed Zakaria. The book really highlighted that we're in an age where the president is more about the culture that they create than the actual policy. And this it's a really difficult thing because now you're looking at it like, okay, who's actually influencing popular culture, right? And you got, Trump is influencing popular culture, and so is Kamala's trying. I mean, that's why she had so many celebrities on stage with her. She had Beyonce, Eminem, Taylor Swift. She got all of these people. And, I think...
I got something to say about that, but I'll talk about that later.
Yeah, but I think at the end of the day, I'm like, we're in a space right now where policy is being thrown to the side and everyone's enjoying the display of power and the display of the culture that comes with it, which is a difficult position for us people in the community that organize, right? Because we actually want to see policy shift. We don't want just people enjoying themselves and you're getting caught up in the
it was a mind spell.
Yeah,
they got all these entertainers who they feel that you're a fan of, which only a small part of our population is a fan of these fans. And fan is the root word of fanatic.
Yeah.
No, I'm not a fanatic of some of the artists that was on there.
Yeah.
But man, this was an interesting year.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting year. What the elections did to our people. It took us it turned us against one another. Some people came together.
Yeah.
Some people argued and differed, and all the keyboard activists came alive.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying? If you say that you just had an opinion that was the opposite of their opinion, they're trying to cancel you. You know, when Allah tells us in the Quran that in verse 21, chapter 21:92, Allah say, I created you as one community, one brotherhood. So cherish and worship me, your Lord. So to me, that's one of the verses I organize under.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So how do we get divided?
Yeah. Because
we assimilated into a system that barely cares about us, especially if you don't have a voice or any political influence.
Yeah. I mean, we already know the Muslim vote is pretty low in general.
Okay.
It's been generally low over the years. So we're coming in this space where we're trying to act like we're going to vote, and we have not voted in the past. So, you know, there's a lot of uncertainties come with that. We haven't been as organized as we need to. We don't have enough institutions. We look at lobbies, right? Everyone wants to think about what party works for us. Is it the red parties, the blue parties, the green party, whatever other parties there are? But the reality is, when you join a party, the interests are of the party. They're not the interests of your community. When you try to think about interests, you have to look at interest groups. And we have thousands of interest groups in the United States. You have the healthcare lobby, you have the medical lobby, you have the war lobby, you know, you have the basketball lobby. You have all sorts of lobbying groups. But when you look at where the Muslims are in that space, they're not lobbying enough. They're not building power enough.
We're not engaging. That's what we said earlier.
Yeah, we're not engaging.
We're not engaging them. It was interesting because the one thing that I did learn over the next 5 years or 4 years, we got a lot of work to do. We got a lot because we recently got a resolution passed at LA City Hall for human security.
Yeah.
And based on the 4 freedoms, freedom of fear, freedom from want, freedom of expression, and freedom of worship. Policy making is no joke.
Yeah.
You have to have patience. You have to be strategic. You have to learn who has your power.
Yeah.
And how you're going to leverage and negotiate the middle ground between that. And that's what I've been learning over the last several months. And, you know, not to be, we have a saying in community organizing, power is in the product of the relationship. And I learned to identify, if you have my power, and I basically need to be more strategic on us coming to a middle ground.
Well, I think, you know, with that point, one of the things I've seen is that because many Muslims didn't get what they wanted, they checked out. They're like, they got apathetic, they got like burnt. They're like, I'm done with this process. I'm going to go back and do other things.
But that goes to the second rule of security. Don't leave your post until properly relieved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they do that because they don't see any other option. But the reality is, this is part of.
I ain't got time for emotions though in this game, man.
Yeah.
The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, 23 years of building a community. He focused on relationship building.
Yeah.
4 examples that I could think of is when everybody know the story of the lady who threw trash in his yard.
Yeah. And
when she didn't throw trash in his yard, he went to go check on her.
Yeah.
And she was so surprised at checking her. Him coming to check on her because she was so mean to him.
Yeah.
She accepted the snap. The second one was like, it's one of the battle of the trenches.
Yeah.
The night before the battle, he took a delegation over to the other side to negotiate the outcome. So what does that tell us? You're going to have opposition out there. You can't ignore them.
Yeah. They
may have some of the same interests as you.
Yeah.
So you negotiate that middle ground. The third one would be the Medina Constitution.
Yeah.
If you look at the Medina Constitution and how it protected everybody in the city, whether you was Muslim or not, that was forms of protecting and building relationships. The fourth one would be the conquest of Mecca. And as we know, it was the most peaceful conquest ever written down in history when they had the mission of return the Kaaba back to its original state of monotheism.
Yeah.
So building relational power is the core of what we have to do. And we cannot be afraid to have conversations with those who we perceive to be opposition.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the challenge, right? I think we've been in a tense space this last 10 months because everyone's like,
and we've been living in a bubble for a long time.
But it's like, who's going to fix all of our problems? And then we get angry at the leaders that we do have, right? And I think even though we have those tense moments, we got to come back together. We have to come back and say, how are we going to work together? Now, my only exception to that rule is that if the organization is not in it for the people, if they're not a people-driven organization, I'm going to have a problem. Because we have some organizations that are people-driven, and they have skin in the game for a pretty long time. But if you just show up and then you have expectations for the community to bow down and you haven't done the work, that's when we're like, okay, you got to actually do the work and get the street cred you need before we can actually.
You got to build with the people. You got to build the people up. I think one of the best people building moments I've seen in the recent months was when everybody was in Washington D.C. For that big rally.
The gigantic one, yeah.
Yeah, they identified who had their power.
Yeah.
And they took their action to D.C.
Yeah.
And that made a lot. They saw a sea of people like, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. They identified their power. They built a lot of influence on that day.
Yeah. I think the the missing component here is the institutional transition. We've built a lot of power in the last year. We've got people organized. We've got people engaged.
We've come a long way.
Come a long way.
We still got a long way to go, but come a long way.
Yeah. But now it's like, how do we translate the institutional sustainable efforts, right? Because you don't want the power to just disappear. You want to make sure that everything is...
How do you transition that?
It's the idea of moving from just people that are doing it as volunteers to staff to organized efforts that happen on a regular basis, right? So if you lobbied for 10 months straight and then you just check out, right? You need that effort to continue, that consistency. You can't drop the ball on things that all of the momentum that you build.
Well, one of the things that community organizing is that you have to listen to what the people want in order to get an endorsement or a buy-in from to participate in your program.
Yeah.
And what happens is organizations just shoot them what we want, what they want.
Yeah. Never works that way.
It never works that way.
Yeah.
So you got to do listening campaigns, research, exploration campaigns to listen what the people want based on the agenda, because everybody don't live in an influential community or stay in like $1 million house or $2 million house. You know what I'm saying? You got working class Muslims who's paying whose problem may be housing.
Yeah.
How are you going to help me with the housing effort that I got to deal with? Because if my mom's didn't return to the Creator, I would not be a homeowner.
Yeah. To add to that point, there's one space where all these conversations are happening.
Where?
TikTok. The Gen Z audience. So this is one of the things that many older organizations don't understand.
I thought they're trying to get rid of TikTok.
It's still around, But some of the older institutions don't recognize that there's momentum, there's movement, there's a lot of stuff that's happening on TikTok and social media that many people that are not listening in those spaces, they don't understand. But the reality is, this is where the younger generation gets their information. So they're being educated, they're being trained.
They are.
They're connecting in those spaces.
I like the TikTok shot.
Yeah. TikTok. But it's part of the game, right? It's like, okay, well, we have to reach the community in those spaces where they're spending their time. And they're getting their education. They're learning about policy. They're learning things. And if we're not presenting our case, right? And let's say you're an organization, you want to get people bought into your agenda, you're going to have to speak in the same terms that they understand.
True. Just like when the prophets, may peace and blessings be upon them, went to the people. They met the people where they was at. They spoke the same language with them. You know what I'm saying? When the mayor office asked me to
I thought you were the mayor.
Who?
Mayor Ballet?
That's how rumors get started. When Karen Bazz office asked me to be one of the interfaith leaders to say a prayer.
Yeah.
Normally, we get up there and recite in Arabic.
Yeah.
Nothing's wrong with that.
Yeah.
But you got a whole audience of English speakers.
Yeah.
You kind of lose them. So I recited a verse in English.
Yeah.
And this is one of the most biggest response that I've ever gotten from an audience, because they was like, beautiful words. Yeah. I said, these are not my words.
Yeah.
These are words directly from the Quran, which means recite.
Yeah.
So leaders have to meet people where they're at.
Which is a challenge. But, you know, if you look at just the presidential campaigns that were taking place between the two candidates, you had some candidates that were meeting people where they're at. They're going into those spaces. You know?
I can name a couple.
I will say just purely Dr. Cornel West.
Yeah.
One of the reasons we supported him early on was because he's always been with people. He show up to anything. You know, he doesn't ask for a ton of money. He'll go up to any event. He'll be in Crenshaw. He'll be in Beverly Hills. He'll go to any area that he's called. He's been at Harvard. So, you know, he really has become a man of the people. And I think that's something that we really enjoyed about him, we liked about him. We understood that his campaign is not going to win presidency, but when you are able to organize people, that power sustains itself post the election.
And he came with an energy of information that was greatly needed that you never heard.
Yeah.
Just like Bilal Ware.
Yeah.
They came with an energy of information that they never heard platform candidates ever speak about before. Yeah. And Bilal Ware basically educated us on a lot of things, because as an African American, I know who I am. I know my identity.
Yeah.
I know that Christianity was not born in Europe.
Yeah.
And that we play a vital role not only in Christianity but in Judaism and in the Quran.
Yeah, 2 Muslim VP candidates this year.
Yeah. That's big.
Yeah.
Shout out to Melina Abdullah and Bilal Ware.
Yep. So
you worked hard to get to that point.
So a major shift in our community, right? A major shift in where we're going.
2 African Americans at that. Man, that says a lot.
Well, that also says something to the need for better relationships between the immigrant indigenous communities. I think this is something that's been a sticking point all throughout this year.
Yeah, man. We got a lot of microaggressions to get over. I think we could get over that because we can't do this alone. I know my side of the community can't do it alone. Your side of the community can't do it alone. But we perfect. We feel like when we all do it together and based on one idea, one agenda, we could probably, we could do anything, but we got to stop thinking that, we're different.
Well, that's why, for me, the agenda that we thought it was divest to invest, because we don't want to meddle into the affairs of other countries. We don't want to spend money doing that. And we want to build up our local communities here. And I think it's a perfect balance, because we do have people here from an immigrant community that their interests are overseas as far as where they care about, right? When they think about the president that's going to come into power, they want to see, are they going to meddle in the affairs of their countries back home, whether it's Turkey, Pakistan, or the Gulf states or Middle East or whatever. They want to see how that's all going to play out. So there's a balance of building power locally and also, moving resources away from controlling the governments in other countries and helping them actually build themselves up.
I'm 54 years old. Yes, I'm 54 years old. And the toughest presidential era for me was Reaganomics. Why? He gutted the community for everything. I believe crack came at that time too. He gutted. That was the toughest president that really affected my life
Mm-hmm.
that I can remember, because we used to have programs where you could get a summer job,
Mm-hmm.
and by the time school start, you could use those funds that you earn
Yeah.
to go buy your school clothes.
Uh-huh.
He got it, all these programs, man. But I never really had to rely. We never really had to rely on the president.
Uh-huh.
It's always been about self-determination
Mm-hmm.
and local power,
Mm.
because this is what we can control.
Yeah.
I can't control what's happening in the White House.
Yeah.
I can't control what's happening in the Senate. I could barely control what's happening in the Assembly.
Yeah.
But I can have some say-so in my local city hall.
Yeah.
I could start a business
Mm-hmm.
and build and be self-determined.
Mm-hmm.
And not only just start a business by being a blue collar or whatever type of worker,
Mm-hmm.
the union, that's opportunity as well.
You could solve the housing crisis in your city.
Yeah.
You can solve you can create affordable housing if you wanted to, if you worked with your
With your local that's gonna be, I got a campaign coming up and I don't want to mention it now.
Oh, okay.
But that's gonna be an interesting campaign.
Yeah.
Interesting
But
campaign.
that's where we need to go. All politics is local, and when we have local power, people will come to you. I mean, if you looked at the Muslims in Michigan, we had two candidates that were vying for Muslims to
Right.
support them.
Right.
You had some of that in Pennsylvania too.
Mm-hmm.
So you see that a little pocket of power there is important. There, I was told the other day we have 5 congressional seats in California that could flip between red and blue, and there's a ton of Muslims in each area. One of them being Corona. You had Ken Calvert and you had Will Rollins. You had Orange County. You had Derek
So why are we not running for these seats?
Derek Tran and Michelle Steele. Why we don't have our own people? I don't know why we don't have our own people yet, but I know that we have people who can vote in those districts, and those guys are not even voting yet to flip one.
Voting is a right.
Yeah.
It's a right that we must exercise. There's so many people that say, "Oh, I don't believe in voting," or it ain't gonna do nothing. But but when you don't vote, look what happens. You know what I'm saying? You're not exercising the little bit of power, your will and ability that the Creator gave you to exercise.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to approach it from all angles, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is a push in our community that says that voting is not going to do anything, but the reality is, you ask them, well, what do you want it to happen? And they can't really answer that question. So, you got to be thoughtful. Part of this is building a muscle, the habits that you build during this election. You need to do that sustainably, because our community has not built the habits to build power.
Okay. So, I want to do a call to action. So, all the organizations, including yours, we have to start developing our people to assume leadership in our cities. That's very important, because if not our own people of like minds that resonate with our values. Yeah.
And I'll add something to that, because over the years, I think we've helped a lot of people get into positions of power locally, and we've seen them even in the various administrations. But one thing that I see that's a missing component, and I actually found this out during my doctoral dissertation when I was looking at the leadership skills.
You a doctor?
Sometimes.
Sometimes? Depends on what's on TV?
It depends on what's on TV, which is actually funny. So I finished my dissertation the end of September, early October.
Congratulations.
Yeah. But my dissertation was on how student organizations like MSA build powerful leaders for the corporate world. And, it was just, in the last year, like that, I proved my dissertation times 10.
Finish your point, and I'm going to tie something in with that.
So, to the point before is that the missing component in great leaders is moral courage. So when you're in the room, do you have the courage to say what you believe and believe what you say? That is a challenge, because we have many Muslims that go into positions of power, whatever party, and then they get swayed into another direction, and they lose sight of what needs to be said. That's why we have tons of Muslims that are appointed to the Biden administration that don't actually make a difference, because they don't have the courage to push an agenda. So it takes courage to push an agenda.
It takes courage to push an agenda, and they need a base to insulate them when they
A
get
community has to have their back. Yeah.
Need to have a base to insulate them, because when they get pushed back,
Yeah.
like I'm gonna put my neck out there for you,
Yeah.
but how y'all gonna insulate me? That's the problem with some of our Muslim politicians now. A lot of us don't really insulate them properly like they need to be. They get attacked by these other organizations.
Yeah. Yeah, and social media, it's a double-edged sword. There's a lot of bots out there, a lot of people that are pushing people into different conversations. But we need to learn to do the deep research that needs.
What's a bot?
Yeah, what's a bot? It's a make-believe character that pushes an agenda on the internet on behalf of a political party or whatever group.
So you mean to tell me on Facebook they got propaganda to make me believe that it's in my favor?
Yeah, every group, everything. You could take. There's analysis that was done on the world leaders. About like half of their followers are bots because they do the liking, they do the sharing, the reposting, and they do the commentary. So they're trying to create a narrative that supports.
So when something shows up on my timeline, it was AI generated.
Yeah, you have that too. Now you have AI videos. So it's there's a lot of fake stuff out there. So it takes us as a community to be more educated and recognize that there are forces that want to see us divided.
I believe that. So the point I wanted to tie in with you about the students, when I gave the talk at UCLA, I asked them, I believe in call to action.
Yeah.
I asked them, take this time to develop yourselves for the next 5 years of your life, for the future. Build yourself in a way that you can make change after your graduation, whether you land in the medical field, biotech company, civil rights organization, policy organization, or entrepreneur. Take this time to create your vision of where you want to go, your world as is compared to your world as it should be, because it was a lot of students out there, and the majority of them was non-Muslim. So here you have a synergy that's unique in what you call a wrinkle in time, that we could use these moments to build. To build. So it goes back to your point about your student engagement, that they building leaders for corporate situations.
Because at the end of the day, power in the United States is held in the power of corporations. And, if you really want to make a difference, you got to get involved in the corporate side of things, because, like some people say, America is a big corporation.
Yeah, and I believe that's a true statement. But the other half of that is you can't have a corporate situation without a consumer. If the consumer recognizes their power, they could basically dictate what the corporate entity needs to do for the community. It's called social responsibility.
Well, one thing that I liked about the Black Lives Matter movement was that they actually did come up with an agenda, and one of the agendas they pushed that was very successful was they pushed an agenda to increase the amount of black executives in corporate companies. So there's a study that was done. Many people say, okay, what did we get out of that timeline? But if there was a study that was done on all of the executives that got into positions of power, and it was a massive amount. So it was a major shift in power in corporate America. Was it sustained? Is it going to continue? I'm not sure. But in that moment, they knew what they wanted, and they got that.
Man, enough of this political talk.
Oh, yeah?
So this guy...
All right, I don't know where this is going, but this
this guy gets me in some of the strangest places. He calls me one day. Say, hey, you want to go to this networking situation? I put on. We ended up in Hollywood, right at the edge of Beverly Hills. And the organizer didn't even show up to the situation. So since the organizer didn't show up, he decides to Google for another networking opportunity.
It was a great place. I mean, we learned a lot there.
One thing I learned is that Grant Cardone wasn't hanging out there.
Not that day, apparently.
What's on the 12th floor? Man, my man had us, and I've been partners with the Church of Scientology.
Uh-huh.
To me, they've been very essential, especially during the pandemic, in providing services. But I wasn't letting you go up there alone. You know what I'm saying? I had to show you the ropes when we go in there. He almost got us throughout.
I thought they were going to have better snacks, but the snacks were not what I expected.
So if you cannot pray in the Church of Scientology, that's because we bust Maghrib Salat there, the sunset prayer there. Yes, the pioneers, we did that for you.
There's no context to people like, what do these guys do in the Scientology church?
Yeah.
But, it was a research day. It was a research to understand how institutions are building their power. And somehow we got put in that situation.
I got out by buying a book.
You got it. I didn't buy anything, but we went.
I bought the book.
We got in there, and they put us through a 5-phase process.
They put you through a 5-phase process. I bought the book, and I'm like, because I know. Okay, I hear you. I took the first pitch.
Yeah,
was the book.
Yeah,
y'all trying to milk it.
So okay, this is what happened. We got in there. First of all, we didn't know that this was the spot, and we're like, okay, we got in there. I'm like, where's the meetup? Like, where's the networking meetup for the entrepreneurs and the business leaders?
You went for the bait.
So yeah, as a marketer, I'm like, wow, I'm always like bamboozled that somebody else marketed, but I'm always in awe because I'm like, wow, you did a good job. So anywho, I got in there. We sit down on the couches. And they're like, just wait here. And we watched this short video about this man sailing through the boats and figuring things out, blah, blah, blah. And then they put me in a dark room. They separate us, and they put us into different rooms.
My room was lit.
Your room was lit. My room was dark. So
my room was lit.
Yeah, so I sat in a dark room.
I dropped the names. I know such and such. Don't put me in the mix. That's what I see. That's why I network the way I network, because you build relationships with different people in certain sectors.
Yeah.
So I dropped the name. I say, hey, tell such and such I'm here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, to look out for us while we're here. Now, I didn't go in no dark room.
Well, I sat in a dark room, and that happened. And then right after that, they put us through this whole process where you got to look at videos, you got to hold things, you got to read a bunch of material that's on the slides.
That's because your man, not your man, but your our colleague was giving them a hard time.
Oh yeah, he wanted to argue with them. So
oh my goodness, that's why they put you in the dark room.
Yeah. So anyway, we went through the whole process, and at the end, they're like, okay, well, you need to buy these courses, and the lady was like getting pretty aggressive. She's like, well, the reason that you are not successful in life is because you don't care. And I was like, that's deep. That's deep, but I'm still not buying this book.
I bought the book. Cut the sales pitch. Let me out of here. I bought the book. It's still sitting on my table.
The thing is, she could have got me if she had snacks. Like, if she pulled out a drawer full of snacks, she's like, I have these snacks. And
what's the hack that you found out, though? It's all online.
Yeah, it's all online. You can take all the courses for free. Great courses, goal setting, things like that. And then, I guess once you finish those courses, you climb up the ladder and you can.
But I have to give the Church of Scientology their props, though, because they provided jackets when it got cold during the pandemic. They asked me to come pick up some jackets. I took them down to my distribution spot in downtown LA. I helped them. I helped them distribute a lot of essential items.
Yeah.
So they have their own way of providing essentials. Had their own way of providing essential services.
Yeah.
But that particular day, they should have provided us some snacks.
Yeah, they should have got me some snacks. Maybe I would have bought a book. But all in all, it was a learning opportunity. Went through that process, and I'm all for the adventure. I'll go anywhere to explore, and I think anyone that's spent any time with me has been in the craziest situations in life.
So in all the year in review, community organizing, master security, C4, C3 training, where do we go next?
what's next? You know, there's been a ton of conversations on the internet.
Okay.
They called them what's next. They had a what next event in DC. They had a couple of, I think, Orange County.
Okay.
Everything else. What's next? You know, I think the most important thing we got to do is be very clear on what our asks are on our agenda and drive the community towards that. You know, in our situation, we worked with our congressman. We got a ceasefire. We got an arms embargo. We got all these other things. And then one of the things he asked of us next was like, okay, what's next? Like, you've got these 3 things, but I'm just one congressman. I can't just change everybody in there, right? So we got to build power. You know, we got to get our agenda straight. We got to move beyond organizational tribalism. And I think one thing to say about that is just that one organization cannot do it all. And I've heard this so much. We just need to have them do it. We need to have them do it. No, we need hundreds of organizations in Southern California that are doing similar work. Because we have tons of cities. Just in a small city like Eastvale, we need local organizations. We need to build power there. We need power in Compton. We need power in all these cities. So more organizations, the merrier. I think that's the best thing to do. And we need to get donations from local community members. You know,
that's going to be a behavioral shift.
Yeah, we need to make that change. Like, I made it my point this year. I don't like calling big donors, because one of the challenges of calling big donors is you get reliant on them and you're not building the power that's necessary.
Yep.
The hard work is getting your own people bought in.
One of my I used to work for this organization, and one of my mentoring donors, he used to say, "If I die, what you gonna do?" To me, that was like that posted a sticky note in my brain.
You didn't ask for an inheritance?
Nah. He said, "If I die, what you gonna do?" But that made me start being proactive in what I could do for my self-determination and creating courage. So when we ask what next, I would like to see more collaboration between organizations and individuals. You can't do this alone.
Yeah.
We cannot do this alone. For the people at home, adopt your block.
Yeah.
If your neighbors don't know who you are, how do you expect for them to respect you?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? My next door neighbor, I don't want to say her name, but my next door neighbor is so cool, Latino grandmother. And we got a cool little bond. My whole little block, we straight.
Yeah.
So if your neighbors do not know who you are and what you do and how we can help one another, then you're kind of defeating the purpose of being a neighbor. So adopt your block and start there. Start building local power and collaborating.
Yeah, I think we got to move from this mindset that we got to just stay with our own people. You know, power is built by engaging and being in those uncomfortable situations where, you know, you might not think that perhaps a Latino grandmother or you know someone that's a recent graduate of high school could be a close ally, but these are people that
I'm gonna go on and say it. There's some microaggressions that we have to go beyond in our community. One of them is the classism and racism and status. We have to go beyond that.
Yeah.
Because it holds us back so much.
Wonder where it comes from. You know, what is
Shaitan?
Shaitan.
The whispers?
Everything bad comes from Shaitan, but
we buy into it.
Well, I think it's the ego. I think many people that have come to the United States.
Heard the new Ice Cube song?
Yeah,
it's my ego.
I can't believe he's still making music.
Ice Cube is dope.
Yeah?
Yeah, he did his thing at the Dodgers situation.
He endorsed Trump too.
So that's your thing.
Yeah, I know. It's not my thing.
So I don't care.
Yeah. So
but he's making the type of money
to
endorse Trump.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people feel like I'm gonna endorse Trump so he could bring back these stimulus checks. That little $1,200 that ain't gonna do nothing.
But
we talk about cats making millions of dollars for the tax credit.
Yeah. Well, you know, the Trump is a marketer. He put his name on everything that's already government oriented. You know, he's giving the food boxes. He put his name on there with the letter.
Did my man come out with Bibles?
Yeah. sneakers, everything.
Oh my goodness. This dude came out with his own Trump version of, I don't know, King James Trump.
Yeah. But yeah, so classism,
Okay.
you know, I think the immigrant community, there's segments of our community that need to humble themselves and recognize that we need to build with the people here, right? I mean, I think there's like this outside perspective to kind of just get what you want and support your people somewhere else or something like that. But the reality is, if you're here, you're going to have to be part of the community, be with people, right? This idea that you can live in separate enclaves, it doesn't make any sense. You know, if you're going to do dawah, you need to connect and be with people. So, you know, it's a major shift in our community and their thinking. There's going to be uncomfortable situations. I don't want to name all of them, but there's some uncomfortable situations in politics. You're going to be around people that you don't want to be around, but they will be your closest ally. And you're like, wow, this person here that has this completely different other worldview is my closest ally and believer in what I am standing up for.
Don't be afraid to have a difficult conversations. Tension in the room breeds a new life in the city. So don't be afraid to have a difficult conversation with someone. Yeah. That may open up doors that you never have opened before. Yeah. And I forgot my other point, but I was going to say something.
Well, we need to think through things. The difficult conversation needs to be truly trying to listen to the other person and come up with something rather than...
So do more active listening than talking.
You don't want to just listen to respond, right? That's what's a lot of the internet keyboard wars have been about, is about just jumping on the next person. And you know, what do you get out of that, right? You get engagement for the social media companies that make money off of you.
So active listening is another tool of an organizer that we utilize so we can respond in a manner that's effective. Say, okay, so you said A, B, and C. Yeah. And then you ask an open to keep the conversation going, you ask an open-ended question. What, where, when, why, and how.
Yeah. Last thought. Are you gonna make it back down the stairs?
Cut it out. The stairs. Like I say, give me in these situations. 4 flights up. I got somewhat of a bad heart. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, yeah, I conked out for a minute. I had to catch my breath. But my last thoughts are build power in a way that's meaningful to your values. Hold your organizations that you are donating to accountable. Hold them accountable, and listen. And when someone asks you to get involved, don't say I got to go on a trip. I got to go buy a dress. I got to go do this, that, and the other. Yeah. Find a reason, make an excuse to do it, and no excuses not to do it. Yeah. Last thoughts for you.
My last thought is to love your people.
Love your people.
I don't think, even the people that have, we've given each other headaches. We've got into fights. We've got into all sorts of situations. We got to love each other. We got to recognize that is our most powerful force. Even the ones that are completely opposed to what we believe, we need to recognize that we're in this together, and we need to push them to where we want to go together. But trying to shoot each other in the foot is not the move. It's not, no Cheddar Bob stuff, right? We can't be doing that as a community.
Cheddar Bob.
We need to.
I don't know if y'all caught that. Cheddar Bob.
Yeah, old reference. But love your people. Recognize that people are flawed as human beings, and everyone has different pains, different struggles, different anxieties, different perspectives, and the only way to truly build is to educate one another, right? And then some people, they're not going to move, and then you know what you need to do then? You need to lead by example. Yeah. Because when you lead by example and you start making moves, you start accomplishing things, and you actually start doing the things that need to be done, they're going to come back knocking at your door.
So my definition of leadership is from Manuel Pastor over at USC, taking action where there is no action. So if you see the dishes that need to be washed, the grass need to be cut, take action on that. If you feel if a local organizer call you and say, hey, we need we need some bodies to come to this action.
Hmm.
Take action on that. We doing some phone banking, some canvassing. Take action on that. Or the biggest thing, we need a $5 donation monthly.
Yeah.
Take action on that.
It's always an opportunity.
There's always an opportunity. So with that being said, you can follow me at Encourage, INKERIJ 1970 on Instagram, and that's basically the handle for all my platforms. And you can find my man
at Muslim Visionaries Global on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.
So this is In Living Gray podcast with Bazz and Umar.
With that, it's a wrap. First episode.
We'll see how it goes, man. Pray for us. Make sure that pray for us so this could really go to the next level. And we want your feedback too.
Inshallah.
I mean.
Whew.